Alright, welcome back to the third
ever WADcast
of the WADcast Community Cube. Alright, so we're going to be going over two archetypes today. We have Liam here. So, let's just dive right in. Let's just dive right in. Let's just dive right in. So Liam, what is your archetype? What does it do? And what are the key players?
You didn't ask him who's your daddy.
And what are you wearing?
He's wearing John Paul Gaultier.
Nice. Go for it, Liam.
So my archetype is green-white counters. Counters matter. Specifically +1/+1 counters. There's quite a bit.
A lot of sexy cards, yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of cards that make +1/+1 counters happen. Some of the enablers for the archetype are Cytoplast Rootkin.
Hold on a second, where is
Yeah,
that again?
Cytoplast Rootkin is right there. You're looking right at it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
the graph 4, right?
Yeah, it has graph 4. When it enters the battlefield, +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's almost like a proliferate for your creatures.
Right.
And then you can pay 2 to move a counter from target creature onto him. So you can move around counters quite a bit. That's very cool.
He's already a 4/4 when he comes in.
Yeah.
He's pretty boss.
So there's that. There's also a similar effect in Phalanx Leader. The top.
Yeah. I remember that from Theros.
So it's kind of a unique heroic effect where if you target him, you get a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
That's right.
And
All
you
the
get
other
out of
heroic
control.
guys get counters on themselves. He puts it over the whole team. There's also MC, which is a
Funny card.
hinged card. If you're drafting this, we're gonna have an interesting night because I could present every card here. I could tell you about Derry Stinger. So,
oh my effing god!
This is great.
This is one of the more interesting cards that I put in here. There's a lot of soldiers, but it doesn't matter if you don't end up with the soldiers. You can still put +1/+1 counters on him, and you can start shooting down.
We're talking about the Derry Stinger? Okay.
Yeah. You can start shooting down things in combat, which can get quite out of hand too.
Cool, awesome.
A very creative approach in having a Test of Faith also. And I say creative because, it's such a powerful card, but also, it fits your deck. There's no argument against you there, right?
Yeah, Test of Faith is powerful of its own right, but then it's giving +1/+1 counters as well.
Double whammy.
Yeah. There's a few of the Outlast cards, like Anok Bonkin and Abzan Falconer, that can make combat really, really difficult once you've got your counters.
Falconer is so sick. It's going to be so good in this archetype.
That's a bomb. That's a legitimate bomb.
Yeah, legitimate bomb.
And some of the finishers, you have Elite Scale Guard, which also makes combat a nightmare. You have a lot of creatures attacking with +1/+1 counters, and you're tapping down your opponent's team. And there's also Patron of the Valiant, which serves as just a big flyer finisher, but it also has another one of these Rootkin effects, Phalanx Leader effects.
Yeah, very cool.
That's really awesome.
And then there's a lot of the heroic. There's at least 3 of the heroic cards that get a lot of +1/+1 counters when they're targeted, and those work really well with cards that are specifically in the Selesnya colors that target a bunch and put more counters on. So there's Common Bond and there's Reap What Is Sown. They're both instants. One of them has 2 triggers to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. The other can target up to 3 creatures, 1 counter each.
Yeah.
Right. So the difference being you distribute
you
3
can put
counters,
them on 1.
but you can't stack them.
Yeah.
Common Bond, you can stack them or divide them as you choose.
Seeds of Strength gives you. Oh, it's only +1/+1. I see. I thought it was a counter. Seeds of Strength.
Liam, playing tricks, man.
There's quite a few tricks included.
Good stuff.
There's also something interesting in Fertile. You can turn your +1/+1 counters into mana advantage and fixing if you need it.
Oh, sick.
And similarly with Mindless Automaton, you can turn your +1/+1 counters into cards as well. By removing counters from Mindless Automaton, you can get a card draw.
Cool.
I believe John has a rare copy of that card.
worthless.
Yeah.
Worthless now.
Is it really worthless though?
Wow.
Now that it's ripped up, it's definitely worthless.
So that's the majority of the archetype.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Can I just see inspiring call? Yeah, man. There's a lot of you're zeroing on a lot of great cards that are from various formats that I'm really, really curious about seeing in this.
I didn't even know Inspiring Call.
Yeah, I didn't know you.
That's crazy.
Guys, I drafted that set no less than 35 times, and I never saw that once.
Yeah, I've never seen this card. So
Wow,
that's
I didn't
cool.
even. Wow, that's from
Dragons.
Dragons.
Dang. Oh, if it was from I know every card back and forth from cons.
Yeah, I think I do.
Like, yeah.
But yeah, no, I also don't really recognize it, but I did a search on Gatherer, and I came up with a lot of these things.
Cool. Yeah. So like some of the big hitters I see is like Centaur Battlemaster
But he sucks. Only 3 +1/+1 counters. Like, come on.
So if you target him twice with a common bond, he'll get 8 +1/+1 counters.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Oh
3
my
mana,
God, yeah,
3
he's
mana
coming-
at instant speed for
Wait.
8 +1/+1 counters.
It won't get 2 triggers all common bond
Yeah,
because it's
well,
one spell. It's one spell.
But there's 2 effects. It says put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and then it says put a +1/+1 counter.
Ooh, that's I think
I don't know, man. It's one spell.
you might be right though. You might be right because it is one spell.
Oh, whenever a spell targets him, but
Yeah.
the spell is targeting it twice.
I think it's the same spell.
We'll have to oracle
We'll have
that
to
one.
look into that.
Yeah,
Well, you're not
that's
casting another spell. You're casting one spell.
That's
that
true.
targets him.
Yeah, that's true.
So why would it target?
Very,
Why would it
very
target
true.
twice?
Very, very true.
Interesting.
But it still works very well though. Common Bond's still super OP. Even if you weren't playing Counters Matters, the Common Bond is so badass. It's instant speed counters, like it's ridiculous. So that's cool. That's really awesome. So
I do see a blue card though.
yeah. So what's the deal with the give and take? So give us your rundown on give and take.
Give us and
I
take.
know you're on the fence.
Wait,
Give your
hold
take on
how,
give and take.
How would that work? Is it one spell when it's fused, or would it be 2 separate
There's specific
targets?
ruling on how fuse works. It's you're casting both halves.
You
of the
may
card.
cast one as both halves
One or-
of this card.
One or both halves.
One or both.
So it's technically one card. I don't know if it's 2 spells.
No, because I think it is one spell because it's give, take, right? It becomes one card.
Right, but if you can search just give and you'll get that though, right?
Are fuse spells
Well, I'll be a lot less excited about it if
Two.
it can't target twice.
Are fuse spells 2 spells?
Let's just look this up quickly. NTZ.
It's one spell.
It says one spell.
Why one spell? I get the feeling it is one spell, because
Yeah, because like Gutter Snipe wouldn't go twice, right? It's once, right? One fuse cards work. One card, one equals one spell. There you go. A card is a spell. There you go.
Perfect.
So it becomes one when you fuse it, which kind of makes sense. Fuse, right? Why we're looking at that. All right. So one last thing before we can move on.
Yep.
We still have another archetype to go on, and I wanted to also discuss a little bit about the other stuff. There's something I didn't ask you before, but I don't know if this is even answerable, but if we're drafting, and then what are the cards that'll pull us into this? Really, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's something that's like I think that's something we have to kind of think about.
Yeah.
Because the draft
Agreed.
portion is so dynamic. If you're opening up a pack with a bunch of cards, let's say similar level, what's something that would really pull you into this archetype? Like Thrive's not pulling me into anything, right? It's more of a like pick.
Probably the Falconer or something like that.
Falconer, yeah.
You just sort of see an end vision of where the deck could be.
Yeah,
You see
that's
a
cool.
giant flying team, and
Love it.
The Phalanx Leader is super OP. If you can, like, I guess if you notice in the early packs that there are a lot of things that target creatures, like putting 1/1 counters on your creatures for every spell is like.
I was looking at
Madness.
it. Like I didn't have a lot of time to look at the other archetypes, but the archetype you were telling me about, the Gruul one, the Bloodthirst one, there's a lot of green spells.
Yeah,
that target
tons.
there.
Like you guys work really well together. Naya is really a good combination. So I mean, I want to talk about the give and take, but screw that shit. Let's just move on because we have a lot to talk about. So last weekend we had a big controversy discussion about how we were going to divide the archetypes up color-wise, colorless, and like what was each player going to be, each designer going to be getting as far as cube space, right? I originally given a 10, 10, 5, so 10 of one color, 10 of the other color, and then 5 of the multicolored. But then I overlooked colorless an overlooked lands because I was just gonna put in 3 cycles of lands for the dual lands. That's what I was just gonna do, like, just straight up. But so JP brought it up that it was an overlook because he wouldn't people wouldn't necessarily want just 3 dual lands of their colors. Right?
So yeah.
Okay. We opened that up, and also the colorless thing. I was totally not thinking about that. And that was overlook on my part because I know Memo is going to be doing a Metalcraft / equipment deck, right? So we distributed the colorless as well. But then there was another problem, and JP came up with a list of like 44 cards instead of the
25.
Original 25. He gave me a list of 44. I told him, "Do you want me to cut?" And he's like, "No." And then there was a huge uproar because colorless has a weird spot in the cube where if we're talking about guilds, like who gets what, like how are we distributing the colors? So in the end, we all voted that everyone would get equal amounts. So we cut up the colorless to 3 per person, right? There's 30 slots, right? So 3 per person. So it's been changed a bit, but that's the general idea, right? So JP came up with artifacts matter, right? So he's doing Simic, which is blue-green, and he didn't give me a description of what he really wanted, like his vision. But I kind of looked around the thing, and there's a bunch of key cards that stand out. So so like I said, it spells artifacts matter. How it works is you're trying to get down artifacts and synergize them to help you bring out other things. So for example, we have some affinity cards like Cumulox, which is as you can see on the screen. 6, 7, 8 to cast, 5, 4 flying, but it has affinity for artifacts. So every time you have an artifact on the battlefield, it's 1 less to cast. The cool thing that I think JP really did about this was that he added clues in.
That's a really, really remarkable addition.
Yeah.
Actually, I just got my imagination stirring when I saw the Byway Courier.
Yeah.
Like, man, that could be that could be.
Funny enough,
cool.
I think that card's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you get a card after he dies, but you kind of want clues up front, right? So
it's when he dies. I was thinking of the guy. That's a white card, though. Never mind. There's a white card that comes in with 1.
Something like Whirler Rogue, super cool.
That's a great
1/1
card.
for 1.
Yeah.
So Whirler Rogue,
Investigator.
you put it in, you get 2 artifacts off of Whirler Rogue, so automatically your affinity for artifacts are less to cast.
And you're almost at Metalcraft.
And he has exactly. So there's Metal and the Ethereal Sculptor reduces your artifacts.
Which is a wonderful card too.
So I think what JP said is that he was gonna, because we had the whole kerfuffle. He's like, "Here's my list. Do what you want with it." So right now, I'm not sure what we're gonna do with it. I like some of the aspects of it. Some of the things like the hate cards, like this, is just not needed as part of his archetype because we have the buffer of 10 cards per color. So I'm totally gonna take that out and give another slot to this color, right?
I think that's interesting. It's like, well, this archetype full of artifacts. Here's some hate. You're like, it's gonna be OP.
The thing is, Memo showed me his archetype, and he also had hate, and I was like, don't put hate in it. Just use the slots for the archetype to thrive. You know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll put hate in there after it's too good, right?
I don't know about other people, but myself, I really was not in the loop. As far as what you were doing with the rest of the slots, right?
Well, that's it. That's where the problem came up because, like I said, I had totally, in my ignorance, not thought about the other slots as an option for designers. So we fixed that over the weekend, fixed it, and here we are. So yeah, there's several things that create artifacts off of casting, like the Splicer or the Open Wall Mysteries.
Yeah, which is an impressive. It can be an impressive card on its own.
Yeah, there's the other
Ongoing investigation.
Ongoing investigation
is even worse.
Which is really good.
I mean, even better.
Yeah, it's really, really good. This is one of my favorite cards in his archetype. The only problem I see is that some of these things just have no synergy with artifacts. The Horizon Camera, while it's a good card, has no synergy with artifacts. There's nothing really there. So I think he put these cards in because he couldn't find anything that worked with artifacts. And in that case, I might switch them out. One of the later discussions we had was everyone had 31 slots, and then we just distribute how we want to use for colors or colorless, right?
Yeah.
So I think, especially since this is an artifact-based strategy, I think taking out some multicolored spells is not the end of the world, and putting in some colorless spells.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
So Coiling Oracle, that's not useful. I'm sorry. Totally not useful in a double color set, right?
Mm.
Species Gorger could work. It works with with the triggers.
It works with triggers from.
Oh god.
Yeah, if you get it triggers off the guys who
Boiler
make
rogues or whatever. Anything that has an enter the battlefield effect, it works really well with. The Trigon Predator is just hate, so that doesn't necessarily need to be there. We're gonna put in naturalizes. We could put in disenchant and stuff like that. So that already has 4 slots. So I think I'm gonna look at ways to just enhance this a little bit because there is a really good skeleton here.
Yeah.
It just needs to be exploited a little bit more.
Maybe if I could make a suggestion, just like right off the top of
No,
my
you
head,
can't.
is that well, there's Vital Splicer in here. Actually, I have to celebrate. I have to just to congratulate the structure behind this is very cool. And there's a lot of permanents that I forgot. There are cards that I forgot actually make artifacts like quite quickly, quite freely. And the Carapace Forger is going to be awesome.
Blade Splicer? No,
Right, so but if I can finish my point, it's that as the resident expert on the Mirrodin block, as the one person who made a cube inspired just by Scars of Mirrodin, I have to say that there's some really meaty, really good stuff in here, and also some weaker stuff that we can phase up for the actual good, powerful artifacts creating cards and spells from that set. For example, maybe the Fangren Marauder, we had a discussion just before this WADcast, Fangren Marauder with Molder Beast, like that combo was there in the original block for Scars of Mirrodin. All about loving when artifacts die and all that.
The big problem was, in Scars, there wasn't a lot of sack art outlets for it.
But
and also things you wouldn't want to sack.
Right. But
Right.
I still don't think we'll get off the ground.
But think about this. Let's say we saturate this a little bit more with clues. You want to sacrifice those.
Yeah, maybe.
You know
But
what I mean?
like you have to have two. You have to have a 5-drop and a 6-drop, and then they'll just get bigger.
Well, no, you don't have to have them together.
What is this combo?
Right,
Is it an infinite
Well, okay,
combo?
this guy.
or-
Well, I agree. The
I think
Molder,
has 5/3 trample is a fine
the Molder
card.
Beast is fine. He's a fine card. The Fangren Marauders, I don't know. He's a bit lackluster.
What is this combo like?
It's not a combo.
It's
It's
not
just
a combo.
there are 2 cards that work with artifacts going through the graveyard.
Well, there's just cards that even in a set in a block which was filled to the brim with artifacts, these cards weren't that great. So imagine outside that context, in a cube with a lot of different archetypes going on, not most centered on artifacts. This won't be that great. But there are splicers that are way better than the Vital one. Like the Vital one's terrible, actually.
So what is it exactly?
So the Vital Splicer's 4 for a 1/1. He comes into play and puts a 3/3 Color's Golem into play.
With Jenner?
And
That's fine.
and for 1 mana you can generate. That's fine also. But there are splicers that are way better than the Maul Splicer. That's 7 mana, sure, but it gets you 2 golems and they have trample, which is much better for the even in a faster format. I'd rather play the Maul Splicer as like a heavy drop because the Vital Splicer, you get rid of the Vital Splicer and you just spend 4 mana for a 3/3.
Yeah, but you get the 1/1 body too, right? I mean, you can't ignore the 1/1, right? That is another body.
But maybe it's a card I saw less of because it was an uncommon. But I remember in the draft format, like the Maul Splicer was more significant, or even the Wing Splicer, the blue Wing Splicer. I don't know why that's not here. I think it's 3 or 4 for a 1/1 Splicer that creates a 3/3 golem and all golems have flying.
Yeah.
All golems have flying.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
That's insane.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Why is that not here?
So I think JP had in his mind that this is going to be the top end, and I understand that. But I think also like you said, you could add these splices as well. I mean that makes sense to me.
I think the Splicers they have a lot of impact on their own. They come with 2 bodies.
Yeah.
And like it fits in Metalcraft, it fits in Golems, it fits in Artifact Matters, it fits in Affinity. It's everything. It literally is like it's a feast for every end of your family. This is crazy. There's some I've seen the Ornithopter is great. That's a great card.
And they also work with the Species Gorger too, actually.
Yeah, because you drop a Splicer, you get it back. You drop a Splicer, you get it back.
That's a really good point.
That's great. The Species Gorger was clearly like a very good intentional piece of this combo. What was the one I don't quite... Oh yeah, this is great. I love the Numbing Ooze. Like, I love the art. It's just awesome art. Like, he's like...
Well, this is
really
clearly...
scary for
This is part of like the Caterpillar and like the Caterpillar, which is like enchantment artifact hate.
Yeah, but it's
enchantment artifact hate. That's not part of the slots.
Yeah.
So we don't have to even talk about that because that's like not... In my mind, that's not even... John?
Well, it's not necessarily just artifact hate. It's enchant artifact or creature, and it does put the guy on a countdown. I agree that 5 to cast it's extremely heavy as far as mana costs, but
think about
I don't hate this card though.
Yeah, but think about so this is removal, right? Sure, it hits artifacts as well as creatures, but think about your cards that are in your madness. You have fucking 3 damage cards for 1 mana.
I agree with you.
You know, it's like not even the same thing.
But
you know, it's like not the same level of like power. Do you have the one that's a madness and you destroy that creature for 2?
Yeah,
That's
Murderous
ridiculous.
Compulsion,
It's like this is not even the same level. You know, and so clearly he was like he was bringing blue down to a level where it's like he thinks is fair. Like in my mind, I feel like this serves 2 purposes, right?
I have a question. Would you consider this deck an aggro deck or a control deck? Because I can see exactly because I could see why you would want this in a control deck. Because you're trying to weather the storm, and you know what? You don't need to be dealing him damage necessarily for him to be taking damage, and you put the clock on him, right?
Okay.
Obviously, alone you're not going to win with this card, but if you're planning on slowing down the pace of play, you're putting your opponent on the hot seat.
Yeah, but for 5 mana, I'd argue.
I agree that it's super far out.
There's a myriad, and I underline myriad of 2 to cast blue removal spells that tap down a creature and they stay tapped.
Yeah.
A ton of them.
Yes, I know.
And this one doesn't actually tap the creature.
And this doesn't tap creature; it has to be tapped already.
Or get tapped.
So it's like super conditional, right? Anyways, I mean, I understand what I also understand what you're saying, but for that card to be good, I think we have to like really, really, really skunk all the other removal because like they're too good. Like even just the fight spell is like too good in comparison to that. Like
all these things is like ridiculously better.
I have Anissa's Judgment in my archetype. I'm not sure how
what's Anissa's Judgment again?
4 and a green. You support 2, so you can put +1/+1 counter on to 2 creatures. And each creature you control with +1/+1 counter on it deals damage equal to its power to
That's
another
amazing.
card.
That's a great.
That's
It's
crazy.
basically unconditional removal if you have, and it gives 2.
As long as you have a creature somewhere.
All right. Anyways, so I'm gonna wrap this up because I don't want to go too long. We are drafting after all, and also it's like already been 22 minutes. So I just wanted to talk about what were our changes. Did you guys make any changes to your?
I have not yet.
I'm working on some changes for mine.
So we have. I don't have it here. I should have brought it up before. But the Google Doc. You still have some. Johnny, you have some colors to add.
I need to flesh out a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, nothing is final.
I might need to modify a little bit too.
So something I was talking to Jerome and John about today was possibly trying to accumulate all the whole list for GP Montreal and testing, just like doing a dry test. Like just like who cares if nothing is like perfect? Just put it all together. We have all the plastics. We have the box here and all the plastics ready. All the lines just find the cards, smack it together. Let's go and draft it and see what comes up. I think it could be cool. We already have everyone's list except for Faludi's.
As a side event sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 7 to 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. Everyone says, like, I don't want to draft anymore. I don't want to do any events anymore. I just want to fucking hang out. We could just, like, pull it out. You know, let's just do a fucking quick draft. Let's blitz, you know?
Yeah.
Could be cool.
Could be very cool.
So.
Yeah, I agree. It's only 2 weeks away. It's very possible. Very doable.
Yeah. So I could put some time into that, trying to accumulate the cards.
Also, the faster that we get it done and the faster we get it built, the faster it's playable.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I don't want this to be like a 700 week like project. Like now that I notice that everyone gave me the lists, it's cool. We could knock out 2 archetypes per podcast, and like we'll kind of have an idea with the drafting what works and what doesn't work, right? So yeah, that's it. So anything else? Last thoughts?
Good. No, that's great.
Cool. All right. We'll see you guys.
See you next week.
Ciao.
See you next time.